In this electrifying battle for technological supremacy, two superpowers, the USA and China, have been engaging in an intense struggle since 2018. Which country will emerge victorious in the tech war? The next 10 years will prove to be pivotal, where cutting-edge innovations and groundbreaking developments will determine the ultimate winner. The USA is still holding a firm lead in chips and artificial intelligence, the most crucial battlegrounds. Can China bridge the gap and catch up to its rivals' technological prowess?
Are flaring up between the U.S. and China.
With President Trump upping the pressure for a trade deal with China.
President Trump announcing plans to increase tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods.
President Trump launched the USA-China trade war in 2018. The USA hit Chinese goods with tariffs, and China retaliated with tariffs on American goods in return. After a few rounds of tariff escalations, the trade war has evolved into a technology war. The USA Commerce Department blacklisted ZTE first and Huawei later, citing concerns about national security and espionage. In May 2020, the Trump administration blocked global chipmakers from supplying to Huawei, crippling its chips and smartphone divisions. Huawei's global smartphone market share was number 1. In the second quarter of 2020, it has become insignificant now. The pandemic, which started in early 2020, seems to have tapered off by early 2023. The trust deficit between the USA and China have deepened further, due to repeated accusations of COVID origin by US without evidence. Instead of easing off, the USA-China tech war has deteriorated further after the arrival of the Biden administration. On October 7, 2022, the USA has prohibited US companies from exporting to China the technology, software, and equipment used in producing advanced computing chips and supercomputers. U.S. persons are also barred from supporting certain China-based chip companies without a license from the U.S. government. In early 2023, the U.S. has secured an agreement with the Netherlands and Japan to restrict exports of certain equipments to China. SMIC has delivered 7nm chips using such equipments. The goal of the USA is to keep China's chip-making technology at least 5 generations behind cutting edge. Dr. Richard Chang, the founder of SMIC, said in a recent Shanghai conference that lithography machine is the only obstacle left in completing a fully localized 28nm chip production line in China. Securities Daily, a local Chinese newspaper, recently reported that Shanghai Microelectronics Equipment SME is expected to deliver by year-end its proprietary 28nm lithography machine. If that news were true, then China will no longer be constrained by the USA and its allies on matured chips. Let me explain why that is important. The above charts were published by Digitimes in early 2022. Hence, figures on 5nm and 3nm were not included. The key conclusion from the left chart is that Moore's law, in terms of cost, fails after going below 28nm. Instead, it has climbed slightly. Most consumers do not need the latest technology. Better performance at lower price or optimal price-performance ratio may be more relevant. The excellent price-performance ratio of the 28nm node has made it highly attractive for many applications such as home appliances, cars, machine tools, etc. Of course, cutting-edge applications for high-end smartphones, high-performance CPUs and GPUs and AI chips would still demand higher performance to power achievement, which requires the smallest node or most advanced processes. Matured chips, those with node sizes of 28nm or higher, account for about 70% of total chips sold. The equivalent number for advanced chips, those with node sizes of 10nm or lower, is about 15%. China has reportedly invested billions in matured nodes to achieve self-reliance as much and as soon as possible. Oversupply of matured chips seems guaranteed. Many high-cost players will likely be hit hard by the coming industry shakeout. The USA and its allies are already looking into the matter, according to a recent report by Bloomberg. Huawei Technologies is planning to launch a new 5G smartphone in late 2023. The 5G chip is designed using its own chip design tools and manufactured by Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp. SMIC. A return to the 5G smartphone market would mark a victory for Huawei, probably the one and only company to have survived an onslaught from Uncle Sam. According to Reuters, Huawei would use SMIC's N+1 process, with a forecast yield of below 50%. 5G shipments would range from 2 to 10 million units. Reuters sources believe SMIC can make 7 nm equivalent chips using DUV that it could still buy freely from ASML before September 1st. The low yield rate can improve after successfully climbing the learning curve. Chiplets enable the design of more powerful chips by stacking pre-existing chips together like high-tech Lego pieces. The stacking of chips will be the primary mechanism for continuing to scale chip performance in a cost and power-efficient way. As the U.S. increasingly blocks China's access to the most advanced chip-making equipment, its strength in packaging could serve as a sanctions workaround. Chiplets could enable China to produce 5 nm equivalent chips without having access to EUV. Don't underestimate China, which is playing the tech sector defense like a skilled Go player. First, it seeks complete independence on production of matured chips, which underpin most of the country's industries. Second, it is investing aggressively in building up its equipment makers to address the various choke points. Third, it uses chiplets to buy time until the arrival of the homegrown EUV machine. Fourth, USA's own tech companies are beginning to complain about lost sales.
If I have 25% to 30% less market, I need to build less factories, Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger.
If the American tech industry requires a third less capacity due to the loss of the Chinese market, no one is going to need American fabs. We will be swimming in fabs. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang.
The question is, will the politicians listen? Fifth, China has had enough. It is striking back by restricting the export of gallium and germanium starting from August 1st. Gallium is used in the manufacture of radio communication equipment and LED displays. Germanium is widely used in fiber optics, infrared optics, and solar cells. These applications also make them useful components in modern weapons. China produces about 68% and 95% of the world's germanium and gallium, respectively. Most mainstream press sound complacent over the likely adverse impacts ahead. I am not so sure. Time will tell, and it will not take too long to find out. Gallium trades at close to the one-year high, a surge of more than 50% since the announcement of export restriction. Any rejections among the first batch of export applications would trigger supply anxiety and spike the price up further. Export restrictions of rare earth elements cannot be ruled out should the USA-China tech war ratchet up further.
Transforming text into creative discovery.
ChatGPT became the fastest-growing app in history after its launch. In November 2022, it hit 1 million active users in 5 days and 100 million active monthly users in January 2023. Thread took that crown in July. Monthly visits, however, has lost momentum by April 2023 and turned negative by June. Has the bubble popped? According to SimilarWeb, July monthly visits saw a further dip to 1.5 billion. Sign of fizzling out is apparent. OpenAI spends $700,000 a day just to keep ChatGPT going. Excluding other AI products like ChatGPT-4 and DALL-E 2, OpenAI is burning through cash despite attempts to monetize ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT-4. Analytics India magazine's recent report hinted that OpenAI might have to declare bankruptcy soon. According to Gary Marcus, a technologist, generative AI companies could see a massive, gut-wrenching correction in valuations. as investors realize generative AI does not work very well and lacks killer business applications. He argues that hallucinations will remain a feature, rather than a bug, of generative AI. Worse, content produced by generative AI is polluting the datasets on which future systems will be trained. A Stanford-Berkeley research team has shown that ChatGPT has become empirically worse at certain functions, including calculating math questions, answering medical questions, and generating code, a phenomenon known to AI developers as drift. Cloud computing providers and NVIDIA, the AI chip champion, are really minting money from the generative AI boom. Much of the money thrown at the technology will probably be wasted, and most AI startups will fail when the bubble pops. David Goldman published this article in the National Interest magazine on July 23, 2023. He argues that Western analysts have overestimated the impact of technology controls on China and underestimated China's ability to work around them. Older chips, alone or working in parallel, can handle most business AI applications. More important than raw chip speed is the availability of the right data, the ability to transmit it quickly and conveniently, and the overall system architecture. The USA and China approach AI differently. He opines that the US side focuses more on consumer entertainment. The China side has no time for poetry. Instead, it has focused on the automation of drudge work. They include part inspection on factory conveyor belt, checking the bins near the coalface for foreign objects, detecting anomalies in machines, picking containers out of ships, and placing them on autonomous trucks, etc. China is leading the fourth industrial revolution by a wide margin by applying AI to production, logistics, and services. Again, China views 5G as an industrial technology, whereas the West emphasizes more on the consumer aspect. In business automation, transmission speed and capacity are more of a bottleneck than chip speed. In conclusion, David Goldman says to maintain technological edge over China, US will have to spend an additional several hundred billions of dollars, train a highly skilled workforce, educate or import more scientists and engineers, and provide broader incentives to manufacturing. He thinks it is too late and no longer within the power of US to suppress China. Overtaking is hard when one is driving a less powerful car. The USA-China tech race is no different. We control all the choke points. China can't really do anything if we want to choke them, said Morris Chang in a recent interview with the New York Times. On U.S. policies that aim to cut off China's access to cutting-edge semiconductor technology, he said U.S. companies would lose business, and China would find ways to fight back. It will be difficult and almost impossible for China to match the U.S. in silicon-based chips by 2027, in my view. The gap is simply too wide to bridge. From 2028 to 2032, it is hard to say because photonic graphene and quantum chips may be ready to create a new competitive landscape. China is investing big sums in these areas, and the gap with US is rather close, if not already ahead. Technology is by no means confined to just chips and AI. China boasts global lead in 37 out of 44 technologies, tracked by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. This is the end of my debut video. I hope you like it. Do not forget to share, like, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.